Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us for this very special episode of Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast about the Audubon Park Garden District in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Lothrop, and today we'll be speaking with Tom Lothrop, the former Director of Environmental Services for the City of Orlando, founding member of the Orlando Wetlands Park, and also my dad. The Wetlands Park is located at 25155 Wheeler Road in Christmas, Florida, about 30 minutes from Audubon Park. You can find out more if you go to orlando.gov and search Wetlands Park. Sign up for their newsletter. This episode is brought to you in part by Trevor Brown, Audubon Park resident and trusted Central Florida realtor with Fannie Hillman and Associates, proudly serving their clients for over 40 years. For listings, market trends, helpful home buyer and seller tips, email directly to Trevor at fanniehillman.com or find him on Instagram at Trevor Brown Realtor. And with me today is Tom Lothrop, the former Director of Environmental Services for the City of Orlando and a founding member of the Wetlands Park in Christmas, Florida. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I understand that the Wetlands has kind of an anniversary coming up, and I've gone there recently with friends. It's such a cool destination. It serves such a great purpose. And as a wildlife preserve, there are a lot of birders that go there. It's right down the way from Fort Christmas, Florida, and it's open to visitors, open to the public. It is such an amazing project, and I wanted to learn more about kind of how the whole thing came to be and your involvement with it. From my research, there was some studies in 1984 about kind of what the alternatives would be for water treatment and purification, and the wetlands really was the best fit, I think, for kind of what the needs of the city were. Tell me kind of how the mechanics of it work, because it's such a fascinating system.
Sure. Thank you, Mike, my son.
Yes. Oh, I should mention, Tom Lothrop is also my dad. So yes.
Well, the history and how the thing works. The treatment plant involved with this, with the wetlands, is called Iron Bridge Water Reclamation Facility, I think probably now, and it's in Oviedo, and it's
right near UCF, yeah?
Right near UCF. Mm-hmm. It's roughly 16 miles of pipeline to get from the treatment plant out to the wetlands. But what the history was, up before the wetlands, the treatment plant discharged highly treated effluent directly to the Little Econ River, which went to the Econ River, St. John's, and on. And we were able to meet the water quality requirements with the plant so that we could continue that discharge. But the problem, or the challenge, was that the plant would have to be expanded because obviously there's growth in the Orlando area, and we needed more capacity. Mm. And the way it works is you have what's called a waste load allocation. And the key two parameters were nitrogen and phosphorus as far as discharge into the Little Econ. And we had a certain pound per day limit that we had to meet. And we just really, with the technology that was available at that time, and I'm talking hardware, mechanical, and so forth, we really couldn't do it. Couldn't do it at the treatment plant itself. And that led us to other options. And obviously the one that came about, which was good for the environment, but good for people to go and visit, was the Orlando Easterly Wetlands Project. And again, the key was we had to get, and it was mainly phosphorus. Nitrogen you can deal with in a treatment plant, but phosphorus is a little more difficult. So that was the key to the wetlands, was with the wetlands vegetation, that it would, to some degree, uptake the phosphorus for discharge into the directly into the St. Johns River.
So this is essentially water that is treated at Iron Bridge, but then it's kind of finished in a natural filtering system, right?
Exactly.
Not to get ahead of the story, but that's essentially, this is water that has been purified to an extent. It's safe, but it could be better, and only nature can really make it happen, reducing chemicals and that sort of thing.
Pretty much so. I mean, there is still a discharge into the Little Econ, but again, the city is meeting the waste load allocation limits between the Little Econ discharge and the wetlands discharge. That's the key, is to make sure that you meet the pound per day limit. I think it was like 200 pounds per day of phosphorus. I think that was the limit on the phosphorus.
Mm-hmm. I understand there is a hydraulic system that is it basically you can control the flow of water. Part of it too is kind of stormwater management. Is that accurate, or is it less that and just more about moving the water from Iron Bridge and keeping up with the capacity that's needed?
Pretty much that's it. I mean, obviously got rainfall on the wetlands itself that you might say factor or add some dilution to what's going out, but certainly over the last several months here, that hadn't been very much. So it mainly is the as I say, the removal of the phosphorus by the plant vegetation, and whether it's uptake by the vegetation or just it tends to somehow absorb to the vegetation and so forth. But it really does a super job, and it really did from the beginning, really, in removing the phosphorus.
Yeah, I was reading a study, and they said that basically what the goals were of the wetlands project ultimately were exceeded, because really that removal of the phosphorus and nitrogen was even higher than was expected.
That's true.
Which is incredible.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, nature has a way of sorting things out, but it's like you're already doing it the right way, and then just improving the water quality for all of the city of Orlando. What was involved in the decision making as far as going with this as opposed to some of the other alternatives?
Certainly. At the time, the engineering firm that we had was Post Buckley, Shue and Jernigan, local office in the Orlando area, and they looked at alternatives. Obviously, part of it was making higher levels of treatment at the treatment plant, and just it wasn't there. So that led them to, look at the natural treatment through a wetland system. There hadn't been many done, really around the world. And in fact, I think the Orlando wetlands is still the largest wetland system in the world, as far as I know. But they also enlisted the help, and I believe the gentleman's name was Ronnie Best from the University of Florida, and he was an expert in, vegetation, wetlands, and how they perform. And it just came to the point where it was the thing to try, the thing to do, and it worked just fine.
From what I found online, it's about 1,650 acres.
Right.
And that land previously was pasture land, is my understanding.
Cattle. Yeah, cattle were, it was owned by the whole tract. We were fortunate to find one, one parcel, if you want to call it that, but I think the whole thing was like 2,000 acres. And but a good majority of it was cattle. not owned by the McCalls, but they just, they rented out space to farmers who needed a place for their cattle to roam and eat hay and so forth. So that we kind of, we worked hard at it, but we kind of lucked out in being able to get one parcel, so we didn't have to have pipelines all over the place going to various parcels to make a wetlands thing. So that worked out really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that area, since you have Fort Christmas kind of just across the way, and you do have some farmland, some residences there, and probably zoned for ag, because you usually see some farm animals in that area, but it's not a place that would have really been developed, right? So it's kind of a prime candidate for that.
Well, in some ways, but it was funny when we were going through the permitting process. We had to go to the state DEP to get licenses and permits and stuff, but we also had to do local. I think we were in this Orange County. We were in Orange County. I don't know if it's planning board or zoning board. I can't remember, but we had to go there to get permission to do the project. And I remember going to that meeting, and there were some of the neighbors. There were some neighbors, frankly, that were concerned how this is going to affect them. Was it going to smell? This is sewage. Is it going to smell? But I remember. I don't remember that. I don't know if it was a McCall or some other gentleman stood up and says, "Madam Chairman," or whatever. Frankly, I'd rather have this project done than development on the land. And I thought, wow, that's perceptive on your part for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think there's much development. Is still quite a ways out from, the urban area or suburban area. So there's not a lot happening there, but obviously this land will be protected forever.
Yeah.
As far as it being kept natural.
Yeah, and it really is so pristine. I mean, it's very well kept. I feel like the people that visit take extra care to not litter. I mean, you don't find trash cans around, but people bring stuff with them, and I think that it feels like the way Florida used to be before it was developed, right? And there are somewhere in the number of 145 bird species that have been recorded there, and several that are on the endangered list. And some of those numbers have even come back because of this project. Is that right?
I would say that would be true. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a safe habitat. One of the draws to visiting, aside from the birding, because you see a lot of birders with cameras with giant zoom lenses, telephoto lenses, and is to see some alligators, because you pretty much you're gonna spot some alligators if you're
question
looking, right?
No question.
Yeah, and that's part of the Florida experience. Anybody that's visiting that doesn't want to go to Gatorland to see a different kind of alligator experience, just see these alligators thriving in the wild, and they're just like right there in front of you.
Right.
And people don't taunt the alligators or feed the alligators, so they're not going to come after you, but you can get some good photos and you can get kind of close. It really is magical, and just to watch people visit there, and I know a lot of schools do field trips there. They're building a new welcome center. The parking lot has expanded. There's a lot for visitors to, it's come a long way, right? Because before it was kind of, you would get there and it wasn't really about the visitors, but you could visit, right?
Right. What's interesting in the history, I think it went online maybe in 1987, I believe, with the flow being pumped out. 48-inch pipeline, I think it is, might be 36, but it's a big pipeline that takes the water from the treatment plant, that 16 miles, out to the wetlands. Obviously, the original purpose was for, you might call it wastewater treatment or wastewater polishing. But it's kind of interesting. At the time, the mayor for the city of Orlando was Bill Frederick. And my boss, who was public works director, Bob Haven, had gone to the wetlands, and he wanted the mayor to go out and check it out. And so we had a little field trip with Mayor Bill Frederick at the time, and Bill was just absolutely taken with the thing. He says, "We're going to make this thing a park."
Yeah. Wow.
Excuse me. And so he was the originator of it, you might say.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we had figured, well, people will obviously come and visit, but we were the wastewater treatment folks. We weren't the park folks. So anyway, he got several crews from the Parks and Recreation Department to go out and build things. I think they call them chikis, which are Seminole Indian houses, I guess. And
Cheeky huts.
Cheeky huts, yeah. And just kind of make the thing more friendly from the standpoint of visitors being able to go out and visit the place. And, of course, it's evolved since then, and a lot of other things have been added with city and state grants and so forth. I haven't been out for a while, but I don't know if the Welcome Center is open yet.
Last time I went, which was just last month, it was not, but it looked like it was getting very close. Yeah. And so when it opened in 1987, were there visitors like right off the bat, or did it take a while to kind of open it to the public? There probably wasn't much to see at that time.
Well, true. Obviously, you can see the gators once the ponds filled up, but the vegetation took a while to grow up. You get cat nine tails. I think that it seemed to recall that we planted something like 250,000 trees, saplings, and I might be making that number up, but I mean it was a big number.
Yeah,
it was a very big number. A lot of them didn't make it, didn't survive, but a lot of them did. But one of the holdbacks in the initial years was when we bought the land, $4 million or something like that for the 2,000 acres. One of the keys was that the owners, the sellers, wanted to have hunting rights retained with them. We didn't really think much of it because we weren't thinking park. We were thinking, well, that's okay. We can work with that. So from, I think, mid-October to maybe mid-February, the park was closed to visitors. And after that, it was open. And one of the things that the Wetlands Festival, which I think is February 18th, was kind of a celebration, you might say, of the park opening up again after the hunting rights.
Oh.
Well, since then, the city actually, length of time was reduced over time, because I think, the first one might have been ducks or something like that. Well, we don't shoot ducks. Okay. So it was reduced, but ultimately the city paid the McCalls, because hunting rights have a value for sure. They paid them, and I don't know how much, to have the hunting rights totally go away. And, how many people from the McCalls or friends actually went out and hunted, don't know. But still, they had the right to do it. And so
that would make it for a big challenge for visitors.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it had to be closed when the hunting rights were in place. So they went away. So, the park is open year round, 365 days. And so that was a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that the Wetlands Festival, and I believe it's February 18th. It's a Saturday, 9 to 3. Originally, the booths, you might say, for the various agencies and so forth were set up at Fort Christmas. It was really a nice setup there to do it that way. But some legal situations kind of disallowed it this year. And I don't think they've had it for a couple of years, probably COVID related.
Yeah.
But, so this is the first time in a couple of years. So they're going to have all the booths, you might say, at the wetlands itself. There's kind of an open area there. I hope it's not too crazy.
Yeah, there might be some learning curve with that, right?
Yeah, and there's parking across the street. St. John's River Water Management District owns quite a bit of land, that they have for protecting, the St. John's River. And so hopefully that will work out. But anyway, the Fort Christmas experience was good, but it just wasn't going to work for this year. But everybody's certainly encouraged to come on out. Hopefully it'll be a nice, sunny, warm day so that everybody can enjoy it. There'll be bus tours and walking tours. The other thing that Mike didn't mention was they just opened up a walkway, which is a couple thousand feet long, I think.
That was big news, yeah.
And it was in a newspaper here 3 weeks ago that was available to the public for going in, and you're actually walking right out into the wetlands. So I haven't been there yet to see that, but my intent is on February 18th. I'm certainly going to make sure I go there.
Yeah, I have been on it, and it's incredible being over the water and seeing fish in there and getting closer to where the birds are. It's such a good vantage point, and I think year round it'll be a little bit cooler there in the summer when you're just like over the water. And it's such like a massive park too. Like you can get a very good walk in. It's nice that they do the tours on a regular basis. They have like a golf cart open air tour. Yeah. And
when is that? Is that on the weekends, or do you know?
I believe it's on the weekends only. Yeah. And you've actually conducted one of the tours there. Mm-hmm. How was that? Were people pretty excited to hear from one of the founders of the project?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, that was one of the bus tours. Well, it's actually the first bus tour probably 3 years ago at the festival itself. Mm-hmm. And so I was the history buff, I guess, on it. And there was a lady who was from the Audubon Society, and she was a wildlife one. And she could tell you what the bird was, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So that all kind of worked out very nicely.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a good day. It was a beautiful day. So anyway, that was nice.
That's cool. Do you think you'll be doing a tour on this celebration on the 18th?
Yeah, I was asked, and I said, well, I'm not sure what my schedule's going to be. So.
Sure. You want to just go and enjoy it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. The guy that manages the wetlands and has for a number of years, and he was actually originally with Post Buckley, is a guy named Mark Sees, spelled S-E-E-S. And he is just a good guy, a neat guy, and enjoyed working with him when I was with the city, which is quite some time ago. I've been retired just about 20 years. And so he is a key person, I think, as far as the improvements that have been made there, because he pushes for them, and he's done a really good job in that regard.
So he is now a city employee. He was at the time a contractor.
Right. He was a contractor from Post Buckley, and after a couple of years, we said we need to hire this guy.
Yeah,
and we did.
Wow,
and it's worked out great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of what a park like this does for people is it makes you care about wildlife more, right? Mm-hmm. You feel more connected to it. You get to see it thriving and in kind of a perfect example of an ecosystem that is balanced. Just all of the things that we're supposed to have as a relationship with nature exists at this park. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that it's free and open to the public every day of the year, it's such a treasure. And it's about a half an hour from Audubon Park. So, I'm bending my rule about just specific Audubon Park things, but obviously I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you for that also. And thank you for this project and your involvement with it. And I'm sure you were kind of one of the decision makers as far as going with this project as opposed to others.
That would be true.
Yeah. Were there any like runner-ups that you were looking at that you're like, maybe we're going to go with this?
Not that I can remember. Yeah. We really didn't have any other options, like I say, at the treatment plant in order to get the levels down so he could increase the capacity. As I recall, and I know folks this will bore them to death, but as I think I said, it's like 200 pounds of phosphorus per day. And that was a limit. So that particular number is calculated out by the milligrams per liter times the flow and some factor, 8.34, I think it is. But anyway, in order to increase the flow, the million gallons per day at 24, because we wanted to go to 40, that was the expansion, you got to reduce the milligrams per liter of phosphorus in order to meet the pounds limit. And there just wasn't really anything available, like I already have said, that could be built at the plant to do that. Maybe reverse osmosis or something along that line could have worked, but as it turns out, I think this project's a whole lot better than that would have been.
Yeah, I mean, even the technology that was available then, in kind of the mid to late 80s when these decisions were made and when it was built, it just makes the most sense from, a footprint standpoint. It's like that land already exists and you're using it for even a better purpose than cattle ranching per se, right? It's like that's the best thing for the community there and for our drinking water here in the city of Orlando. We all benefit from this project, whether we know it or not.
Right. No, I would agree with that, certainly.
Because we do have very high water quality in this city. And are there other factors besides the wetlands that have to do with that, or is that kind of one of the main drivers on that?
Well, because you got stormwater issues. In Orlando itself, there's a lot of what they call storm drains, which are basically like a reverse well that goes down into the aquifer. So water flows along the street and ultimately goes down those storm drain wells, I guess you might call
along
them.
with whatever else is on the street, too.
Yeah, exactly. But most of Orlando gets its water from what's called the lower. There's two aquifers, there's the upper and lower, and it gets it from the lower, and the quality of water in the lower is a bit better and more stable than it is in the upper aquifer. Mainly because of stormwater. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure on that one. But really, the two aren't particularly connected. The water supply is provided by Orlando Utilities Commission and goes in the pipes, and people use it, and then they put it down into the sewer. And that's our job from there. The city itself, the wastewater or water reclamation division is now called, to collect it and get it to the treatment plants. And there's 3 treatment plants involved. There's Iron Bridge in the wetlands. There's also what's called Water Conserve 2. Treatment plant is out on McLeod Road, and that pumps out to the orange groves. So, I mean, that was a very unique project itself, because a lot of the orange groves have gone to development. But you can still put in a second pipeline system to do irrigation with the reclaimed water. And then the third plant was Water Conserve 1, which is south of the airport, a smaller treatment plant. And originally the plan on that was it was going to be a deep well injection. Again, very high treatment levels. But that just never came together for whatever reason. I don't recall at this point. But it turned so it was kind of a limited capacity on the plant. So there's 3 treatment plants. Iron Bridge is by far the biggest, serves Orlando, but also serves 4 communities to the north, Orange County a little bit, and Seminole County, unincorporated Seminole and Orange County. So hence its multiple jurisdictions flows that go to Iron Bridge.
Yeah, and with the growth of UCF, obviously, that school, that university was tiny in comparison to what it is now.
Right.
It's, I think, one of the most populated universities in the country.
That's true.
At a time, it was the top as far as enrollment goes. So you have all of that usage that you did not have, back when this project started. So that foresight, and then the amount of people that are moving to Orlando now and Florida in general has increased, and it's exponentially increasing because of different reasons, climate change, and people they get tired of being in the north, which, yeah, a little bit. And we're from Maine originally, for the listeners that don't know. So we're part of that migration from the north to the south. And that move, I was 5 years old when we moved here, and you did take a job with the city at that time. What was your role with the city at that time?
Well, when I first came to Florida, I was a contract project manager. So I did that for 2 years, and basically my main responsibility, that was in 1983, was Iron Bridge. There was another gentleman there, Mike Hanlon, who handled it, but then he moved back north, so I inherited the Iron Bridge projects and a couple of others. And I did that for the 2 years, and then the wastewater bureau chief at that time left and applied for, and I got that job. And then went through a progression of positions subsequent to that up until my retirement in 2004. Mm-hmm. So.
Mm-hmm. And you studied environmental engineering, or civil engineering rather, at the University of Maine?
Correct, right. What they called it back then was sanitary engineering.
Mm.
Yeah, it was sanitary engineering. And now, that name's gone. It's environmental engineering. But my degree actually was in civil engineering, but with a sanitary engineering focus. So
that really worked out great.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
And when we were in Maine, you also worked for the city of Portland.
Well, Portland Water District, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about that job.
Yeah, doing kind of almost the same thing in a way.
Yeah.
The history of the city of Portland and city of Westbrook, a suburb of Portland, the sewer system, no treatment whatsoever.
Just dumped it right
direct
into
discharge of raw sewage into the ocean.
Yeah.
And in the case of Westbrook, it was into the Presumpscot River. And you say, wow, and this went on up through, mid-'70s. Obviously clear violation of federal requirements, and something had to take place, had to be done in order to correct that. Mm. The reason they were able to get away with it is if those here in Florida can't relate to it, they have 9-foot tides. From the top to the bottom, low tide to high tide is 9 feet. So you get a real flushing action of anything that's dumped into the ocean. Mm. And so it was, unless you went right down to where outfall was, you would barely even know that they were doing that. Mm. But the Portland Water District, which was the water supply agency for the greater Portland and the greater Portland area, you might say volunteered, took on the role of building the wastewater treatment plants. And I was the head of the wastewater division there. And so we built three treatment plants, Portland, Westbrook, and then southern Cape Elizabeth, a small one there. But and the Portland plant's still running. As far as I know, it's running fine. So anyway. Yeah.
That must have affected fisheries and lobsters at the time, right? I mean, that waste had to go somewhere. So
it pretty much got flushed out.
It did, yeah.
Out to the sea.
Yeah. Still not the best way to do it.
No. The EPA was certainly the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the state were both very concerned with the whole thing and said, "You guys got to get this fixed." And there were certain people. There's one engineer that we had who said, really, don't call it a treatment, best treatment, but the situation as it is with the flushing action, actually it's probably good food for the lobsters.
Oh boy! Wow.
I mean, and that wasn't necessarily, it was a thoughtful response that he gave, but that was not what EPA required. They said you got to have secondary treatment, and that's the end of the story. And so that's what we built, was what's called a secondary or biological treatment plant. Activated sludges, also called, up there to take care of the waste.
Yeah.
But one of the problems is the fact that most of the sewers, a lot of the sewers in the Portland area and Westbrook as well, are what's called combined sewers. So it's a big sewer line that takes both wastewater and stormwater. So there would be no way that you could build a treatment plant that could handle a 2-inch rainstorm, for example.
Wow.
That the flows would go from 10 to 40, like in 2 hours, and that would just wash the treatment plant out. So we had to set the thing up so that there were what called combined sewer overflows, that when the flows got to a certain level, because of the rainwater from the streets getting down into the combined sewer, it would overflow back into the harbor directly without
Basically
treatment.
divert that stormwater back into
it just kind of like go over a weir and it would go up. So, it was rainwater and a bit of sewage in that overflow, but, it was so much less than what had been the case before. It worked okay. Now, again, I don't know if they may have done some work to correct that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Either way, what a vast improvement to what they were doing. And just like, I remember you telling me that, when we were visiting one summer and just kind of thinking about like what that would be like, and just how, I'm sure if you caught the air at a certain time of day, or, it would just be, there would be some effects that were probably noticeable from sewage going in.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's not ideal. And I'm glad that we've evolved from there, and hopefully we continue to do so and be better stewards of our environment. That's become a real theme of this season for this podcast is, all of these things that we need to do a better job of and think about and appreciate. And the Wetlands is just really one of those projects that you go there and you remember it for a lifetime. I mean, you really do. And you'll want to go back and visit it often because it is so special. And I'm excited for the visitor center and all of the new changes. It just seems like it's going in a really great direction, and people are getting to know more about it. That boardwalk was huge because it was on the front page of the paper of the Orlando Sentinel. And I think that got a lot of people's attention. And the fact that we try to do more outdoor things these days, this is the perfect activity for that.
I would certainly agree.
So Tom, Dad, thank you so very much for being here and for doing this podcast. This is really special. And what a cool thing to have accomplished. And I'm very, very proud to be your son and to put this out and for people to know of your involvement. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
And there's a nearby lake, Lake Searcy. Tell me about that.
Just, background on the way the wetlands is constructed. There were, I think, 23 or 21 different cells, and they're separated by berms, which are just basically like dams of dirt. The dirt, no dirt was hauled in from outside. Actually, it was all dug in the lake that's there, which is beautiful unto itself, and obviously lots of gators there as well. I don't know, I think it's like 15 or 17 feet deep, but they had a drag line that went in there, got the dirt out, and that was used to make the berms, all around. But the name of the lake just is called Lake Searcy. It's spelled Searcy. And it's really named for the lead design engineer, gentleman named Phil Searcy with Post Buckley. And it was dedicated, again, by Mayor Bill Frederick to the Circes. Phil's son, he was badly injured in a motorcycle accident and it was wheelchair bound. Mm-hmm. And so Mayor Frederick dedicated the lake to the Circes, and the only people that can fish on the lake are the Circes.
Wow.
And if you go around, you look on the other side of the lake, you'll see a little kind of an awning shelter type thing, and in there is a pontoon boat that Phil and his son would go out and fish. I don't know if they still do that. I mean, that goes back 20 years now, 30 years. Mm-hmm. And that was dedicated just to them. No fishing allowed for anyone else. But that was certainly a nice thing to do for Mayor Frederick. So
what a special dedication.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. And I would love it if we could raise awareness and have something there dedicated to you as well. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna work my channels and see about doing that. So more to follow on that.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
And again, remember February 18th, which I guess would be a week from Saturday, is the Wetlands Festival. Mm-hmm. Encourage you all to go out. It's just a great day to walk around and go to the booths, state agencies and other companies as well, and then go on a bus tour, because otherwise you got to walk. You go on the bus tour and it takes you all around the wetlands and so forth. But 9 to 3, February 18th.
Perfect. Thank you. And there are probably going to be ways for people to get more involved that want to as well, right? Yes. If there are cleanup days or different things like that. Mm-hmm. And subscribe to their newsletter, go visit, and thank you so much.
Again, you're welcome.
All right. We'll see you soon. Hello, APGD. A neighborhood podcast is brought to you in part by Stardust Video and Coffee, Audubon Park's beloved neighborhood cafe, bakery, bar, and meeting place, located at 1842 East Winter Park Road. We're also sponsored by Red Light Brew Pub. Founded in 2005, Red Light is widely known as the source for world-class imports and microbrews. A wide selection of natural wines, plus award-winning beers brewed in-house. A full kitchen is in the works with an amazing menu by Chef Jess Tantalo. Located at 2810 Corinne Drive, please check out Red Light for all things beer and wine and soon food. Our theme song is by Christopher Pierce, and special thanks to Trey Hester for all of his help in making this podcast a reality. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please click subscribe and leave a review if you'd like. We'll see you next time.